On today's menu, a surprisingly incredible recipe, a flavorful pumpkin spice ramen. Lei Hou Ma, that's us going in Cantonese. Welcome to Young Man Cooking, I'm Yeung. Alright, so it's actually more spicy pumpkin rather than pumpkin spice. We're definitely not picking up a overly sweet latte, mixing it with ramen noodles and calling it a day. Like with all ramen recipes, it's advantageous to try to make as much as possible ahead of time so that it minimizes how overwhelming all the components are. The soup base for today's recipe can definitely be made ahead of time, but before we get started, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. So let's begin. Slice off the top and bottom of a pie pumpkin. Slice the pumpkin in half. Scoop out the seeds as we won't be using them for today's recipe. Feel free to season and roast the seeds if you like. Carefully peel the pumpkin. For today's recipe, we'll only be using half of the pie pumpkin. Slice in half. Mixing bowl. Carefully shave one half of the pumpkin into the mixing bowl. You can also use a mandolin if you have one. Be generous with the pumpkin shavings as they'll condense down as we roast them. You can definitely roast the pumpkin in slices. Shaving them into petals just gives it a nice visual appeal. 1 king oyster mushroom sliced. Add the mushrooms to the mixing bowl, along with a pinch of salt, about 2 tablespoons of avocado oil, 1 teaspoon smoked paprika, and fresh cracked pepper to taste. Give it a toss to coat. Transfer to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Spread out the pumpkin and mushroom. These toppings are enough for 2 portions or 1 generous portion. Of course, you can multiply the recipe to make more. Finally chop the other half of the pumpkin. Half an onion finely chopped. Three pieces of garlic finely chopped. Small piece of ginger finely chopped. 1 carrot finely diced. The carrot will add a fresh sweetness and contribute to a beautiful orange glow. Saute pan. Of course, we'll be using some chili oil in the base flavoring of that broth. It's going to be extraordinary and we'll add that smoky, spicy flavor. I'll leave a link in the description box below for you to check this out, make this really easily at home, along with another link where you can make that really simple veggie stock or simple dashi as well from a previous episode. Medium heat. 2 tablespoons chili oil. Carrots. Saute for a couple of minutes. Pumpkin and onions. Saute for about 7 to 8 minutes. Really give the veggies some time to cook out to get that nice caramelized flavor. Garlic. Give the pan a stir and let it cook for another few minutes. One teaspoon cayenne pepper. 1 teaspoon turmeric, 2 teaspoons gochugaru, also called Korean pepper powder. This is the ingredients we use to make the chili oil. 1 teaspoon cane sugar. Give the pan a stir. Scoop out the cream from 1 400ml can of coconut milk. You can try leaving the can in the fridge overnight to separate the cream from the water. Add the coconut cream to the pan. Give the pan a good stir. 3 tablespoons miso paste, 1/4 cup soy sauce, a 1/3 cup veggie stock or dashi made in a previous episode. Give the pan a stir and dissolve the miso paste. Blender. Carefully transfer to the blender. blend on high until liquefied. It's not required to have a high-powered blender, but it does produce a nice silky consistency. Transfer this base flavoring to a container. This should be enough base flavoring for about 5 to 6 bowls of ramen, and it should keep well refrigerated for a couple of weeks. That smells incredible. That is the spicy pumpkin, pumpkin spice soup base ready to go. All you need to do now is to boil some noodles, heat up that veggie stock or that light dashi, roast the toppings, and you're good to go. Preheat the oven to 400. Small saucepan. 1.5 cups veggie stock or dashi made from a previous episode. 3/4 cups soy milk. Heat up on medium, stirring occasionally. Feel free to try any other milk alternative as long as it's unsweetened. Bring another pot of water to boil for the noodles. Place the pumpkin and mushrooms into the oven and bake for about 10 minutes. You can check out these official Yeung Cooking ceramic ramen bowls over on the web shop. I'll leave a link in the description box below for you to check these out. If you're using the soup base that's been refrigerated because you've made it ahead of time, just keep that in mind that it might lower the temperature a little bit of the broth when you go to combine them together. So just add a little bit of the soup base to the serving bowl ahead of time, just so it can kind of get to room temperature before adding that broth. Add about 3 tablespoons of the base flavoring to the serving bowl. Cook the ramen noodles for 1 minute less to package instructions. In the meantime, prep some freshly chopped green onions. Pour the hot broth into the serving bowl. Keep in mind, I'm only making enough broth for myself today. Give it a whisk to combine. It's recommended not to use a metal whisk as the knots scratch the bowl. When the noodles are done, strain them out. Carefully add the noodles to the broth. When the veggies are done, take them out of the oven. As you'll see, they've condensed quite a bit. Top the ramen with the king oyster mushrooms, the delicious shaved pumpkin, freshly chopped green onions, some chili threads, and a drizzle of that smoky, spicy chili oil. You can now serve up this uniquely flavored ramen with absolute confidence. That smells incredible. Definitely have to try some of that broth first. Wow, this hands down is seriously one of the best ramens I've ever made. Visually, it's absolutely beautiful. It's rustic, it's earthy, has that bright green color from the green onions and that intense crimson red color from the chili oil that's just suspended onto that broth. Don't take that broth too lightly because it definitely has a spicy kick. It brings that heat and yet this smoky, extraordinary aromatic flavor. That cane sugar brings a little sweetness and just accentuates the pumpkin flavor, but it's not overpowering and still packs so much incredible umami. There's the saltiness from the soy sauce and that miso paste, and that rich, creamy texture from the soy milk. That shaved pumpkin just adds more pumpkin flavor and texture, and it has this beautiful, delicious caramelization. The king oyster mushrooms are nice and juicy, and the green onions just brings this nice freshness. It's such a dynamic play in flavors and textures. There's the sweetness, the saltiness, the umami, the spiciness, and that delicious smoky aroma. This totally looks like it would be served as at an amazing restaurant, and yet with a little bit of prep, you can put this together in absolutely no time. This is definitely one of those recipes that I always say makes it so exciting to cook at home. If you love easy, delicious recipes like that, then definitely check out or pick up your copy of one of the 3 Yeung Cooking cookbooks. There's a print or digital version of these books. You can also check out that official Yeung Cooking ceramic ramen bowl or other Yeung Cooking merch, plus that sushi masterclass. I'll leave a link in the description box below for you to check out all those things. And of course, if you're not already subscribed with that notification bell clicked, definitely do so. I'll see you in the next episode.